Hello everyone, my name is Stewart, and today I'm going to be talking about Hun Sen for my Strongman project. Hun Sen was the Prime Minister of Cambodia from 1985 to 2023 and now serves as the Senate President since 2024. He is also one of the world's longest serving political leaders. Hun Sen held power in Cambodia since 1985. Hun Sen was educated at a Buddhist monastery in Phnom Penh. A Buddhist monastery is a community where monks and nuns live, dedicated to spiritual practice, meditation, and the study of the Buddhist teachings. The Buddhist monastery is a place where individuals commit to a monastic lifestyle, which involves renouncing worldly attachments and focusing on the path to enlightenment. In the late 1960s, Hun Sen joined the Communist Party of Kampuchea, and in the 1970s, he joined the Khmer Rouge. During the regime of Pol Pot from 1975 to 1979, when he estimated 2 million Cambodians lost their lives, Hun Sen fled to Vietnam, joining the troops there to oppose Khmer Rouge. He returned to Cambodia after the Vietnamese installed a new government in 1979 and was made Minister of Foreign Affairs. He became the Prime Minister in 1985. In the 1993 election, the Royalist Party of Prince Norodom Ranariddh, the son of head of state King Norodom Sihanouk, outpolled Hun Sen's Cambodian People's Party, also known as the CPP. Hun Sen, however, refused to cede power, and under an agreement imposed by international powers, a coalition government was formed, with the prince named first Prime Minister and Hun Sen second Prime Minister. In a violent coup in July 1997, Hun Sen deposed Prince Ranariddh, who had made overtures to remnants of the Khmer Rouge, and appointed a replacement. In March 1998, Hun Sen had the prince tried in absentia and found guilty of charges that included an attempt to overthrow the government. Prince Ranariddh was suspiciously pardoned by his father, and he returned to Cambodia to take part in elections held in July 1998. That time, Hun Sen outpolled the prince, but once again, two were forced to enter a coalition government, with Prince Ranariddh made president of the National Assembly and Hun Sen becoming the sole prime minister. In the national election of 2003, the CPP once again finished first, and Hun Sen was appointed another term as the prime minister in July 2004. In 2008, Hun Sen and the CPP won the election again, with 3/4 of the assembly seats, and entered another term as Cambodia's prime minister. But in 2013, the CPP barely won the majority of seats, and with the newly formed opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party, also known as the CNRP, it created through the merger of the CRP and another party, it gained the remainder of the seats. The members of the CNRP protested the election's outcome and boycotted the assembly, precipitating a constitutional crisis that was not resolved until mid-2014. Throughout that time, Hun Sen remained prime minister and continued in office. Once an agreement had been reached between the CPP and CNRP, several decades after the fall of the Khmer Rouge, Hun Sen continued to grapple with fostering national reconciliation and prosecuting the surviving members of the Pol Pot regime for war crimes. The United Nations sought to bring the perpetrators to justice before an international tribunal, but Hun Sen insisted on relying on the Cambodian court system. The first judgment against the defendant, which a guilty verdict, came only in 2010. Other pressing issues concern development of the country's economy, improvement of infrastructure, and management of an ongoing border dispute with Thailand, and later finally resolved in 2013, following a rule favorable to Cambodia by the International Court of Justice. In July of 2023, Hun Sen announced that he would retire as prime minister and that his son, Hun Manet, would succeed him the next month. This move was widely expected because in 2021, Hun Sen had named his son as his successor. In August 2023, Hun Sen replaced by Hun Manet, who received a unanimous parliamentary vote. Although Hun Sen left his nearly 4-decade-long premiership, he remained in politics as the head of ruling CPP. In addition, the 2024 Senate elections resulted in a landslide victory by the CPP, paving the way for Hun Sen to become Senate president. Even though Hun Sen stepped down as prime minister and was in power for 38 years, he still was expected to have a large amount of power and control as his party's president and president of the Senate. It can be very easy to assume Hun Sen as a rural farm boy with the aggressive traits of a soldier because of his background, or when he is compared to his nemesis, Sam Rainsy, who is portrayed as urban and intellectual. But you don't stay in power for 38 years without being extremely smart. He's avoided international intervention, controlled the key levers of power domestically, and crucially balanced competing interests within his own party. Hun Sen made sure he had trusted people in charge of the police and army, and built dependence on his network by supporting the marriage of his children with those of other leaders. The future of all became intertwined within his own. This meant Hun Sen's leadership went unquestioned, as people vied for his favor rather than go against him. Over the years Hun Sen was in power, there were many times where he chose to exert power at the right moment, which cemented his control rather than provoke dishonesty. In 1997, after his forces have defeated Fusenpex, but Hun Sen acted immediately to take control of the police and army. This reduced the influence of the CPP president Chia Sim. This laid the foundation for his ultimate control, which he laid bare when forcing Chia Sim out of the country with a police escort in 2004. The 2013 election could have rocked his authority, but he forced significant changes, bringing in capable technocrats to lead reform, and took greater leadership in campaigning. Of course, it makes it easier to maintain power when you control the police, courts, and army, but it is some trick to control all of these for so long. The recent transition is a perfect example of how he manages to keep all the major players in the Cambodian People's Party content. His son is taking the top jobs, but the sons or daughters of all the other major players are also getting key roles. The outgoing defense minister has been replaced by his son, as has the outgoing interior minister. The daughter of the former industry minister is now the commerce minister, and the son of the outgoing Senate president has become land management minister. Everybody gets a piece of the pie, evident by the number of people appointed deputy prime ministers, so that their interests are served by continuing the status rather than risking division and upset. One thing that Hun Sen did well was keep everyone happy, which is why he was able to stay in power for over 38 years and then be able to pass his power to his son to make sure his family and name would still be able to hold all of that power. Thank you all for listening to my video about Hun Sen. I hope you all learned something cool and interesting about how dictators and demagogues can easily make their way through the government and earn power easily. Thank you again.